Well, this is the day the Lord has made, and I will rejoice and be glad in this day. Well, let me try that again. This is the day the Lord has made. And I will rejoice and be glad. A friend of mine says that if God has grace enough to make the day, all right, you ought to have sense enough to rejoice. So we rejoice today in all of God's goodness. Pastor Alexander and to his partner in marriage ministry, Sister Amanda, and to all of the Reverend Amanda, to all of you, my sisters and brothers in the Lord, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Everybody grateful to be in God's house one more time. Been looking forward to coming here and worshiping with you. You can turn it down just a little bit. Been looking forward to coming and being with you on the 120 years, and let me congratulate the church. I'm here for 120 years. I think we ought to give God glory for So we're looking forward to coming for that reason, and then to be with your pastor, who is a faithful, competent, committed servant of God. Amen. And I think we ought to give God glory for him. Known him for quite a while, and to see him progress to this point is real encouragement to me. So I'm grateful to be here with him. And thank you for the invitation and for the closeness that I've shared with his family, his parents for several years. But I'm really grateful for them as well. And then there are several people here who have connections to Calvary, Morristown, the Morristown area, period. And if they don't mind, I'd like for them to just stand up. Everybody who's here has a connection with Calvary, Morristown. Y'all don't mind? If you don't mind standing up, great to see you. Yeah. Some of them drove a long way just to get here on today, who live in the Atlanta vicinity area. So grateful to see them. I wanted you all to know where they were, so you make sure you don't say anything bad about me. Not to say and I appreciate that. And then I'm especially grateful to have my son here. Stand up here. Grateful to have him here. He lives in the Atlanta area now, so glad to see him here on today. Revelation chapter 7. Revelation chapter 7, this church anniversary. Verse 1. What did I say? Revelation 7 and 1, right? And I'm going to be reading from the New International Version on today. I'm going to jump around to a few verses in chapter 7, so I'll let you know in advance where we are. Verse 1 is where I want to start. After this, I saw 4 angels standing at the 4 corners of the earth, holding back the 4 winds of the earth to prevent any wind from blowing on the land, or on the sea, or on any tree. Then I saw another angel coming up from the east, having the seal of the living God. He called out in a loud voice to the 4 angels who have been given power to harm the land and the sea. Do not harm the land or the sea or the trees until we put a seal on the foreheads of the servants of our God. Then I heard the number of those who were sealed, 144,000 from all the tribes of Israel. Now jump down to verse 9. After this I looked, and there before me was a great multitude that no one could count. From every nation, tribe, people, language, standing before the throne and before the Lamb. They were wearing white robes and were holding palm branches in their hands. Now, one more time, jump to verse 13, which is the foundation of what I want to say. Then one of the elders, verse 13, then one of the elders asked me, these in white robes, who are they and where did they come from? I answered, sir, you know. And he said, these are they who have come out of great tribulation. They have washed their robes and made them white in the blood. Amen. These are they who have come out of the great tribulation. So this afternoon, I want to preach from the subject, what have you come out of? These are they who have come out of great tribulation. What have you come out of? John had been banished to the rocky, craggy isle of Patmos because of his faithfulness to the carpenter from Nazareth, Jesus himself. He was there, that isle that's right off of present-day Turkey. He was banished there, he was exiled there as punishment because he had been faithful to Jesus. He wasn't there for doing anything wrong, simply there for his faithfulness. The punishment involved being separated from everything that meant something to him. Being severed from his church, being severed from his family, having been severed from his ministry. The idea was to punish him through separation. But those who exiled him did not count on the fact that there was something he couldn't be separated from. And that was the presence of God. Because even he said, I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day. Very interesting. Everything was closed off to John, but when you read Revelation chapter 4, verse 1, it says it was a door in heaven that was open. So when he could not find a way out, he had to look up. And when he looked up, there was a door open to heaven. And when the door was open to heaven, he got a view of what we might call paradise. Yep. And I don't know, maybe it takes being on Patmos to be able to see paradise. Because on Patmos, all of your securities have been snatched from you, and you find yourself in a place where you thought you'd never be. And as painful as that position or that place in life may be, maybe it takes being on Patmos to be able to get a view of paradise. Because I'm looking at a few people here who have seen some things about God and about life as a result of your securities being snatched from under your feet. And as much as you didn't want it, you can look back and say, thank you, Lord, for what I've been doing. Because now I get a view of paradise. John is there, and when heavens open up, he receives revelation. He doesn't receive revelations, plural. He receives revelation that is meant for proclamation, being aimed at a people that's in tribulation. The church for whom John spoke was a church that was in trouble because they were suffering intense and immense persecution under the Roman Emperor Nero. The reason for the persecution, again, because of their faithfulness to Jesus Christ, the persecution took form of land being confiscated. The persecution took form of families being separated, and they needed to hear something encouraging because of what they were in. I'm going to come back to that. They needed to hear something. They needed to hear something. See, we get afraid and scared of the book of Revelation because we feel like it points to all these future events. But see, Revelation only points to the future to empower people for their present. The revelation is not meant to lead to quietistic speculation. It's meant to lead the people of God into active participation right now. And the best way to be encouraged about what you're going through right now is to have a view of the not yet. And so what Revelation does is it gives us a view of the not yet that you can import into your now to give you the ability to live in whatever you're having to deal with. So by the time you get to chapter 7, the heaven is still opened up. You ready? Heaven is opened up. And the Apostle John sees some stuff. Yeah. He hears about a number. He said there was a number of 144,000. And don't let people fool you about that 144,000. Knock them on your door and passing you out pamphlets at the supermarket and all. You get all confused. The 144,000, as most numbers in Revelation, is nothing but a symbolic number of the complete people of God. 144,000 is 12,000 people from the 12 tribes of Israel. And it simply means that that's symbolic of all of the people of God, which means everybody who's supposed to be in the number is in the number. And no matter what you think about me or what I think about you, there's nothing you can do to get me out of the number because he put me in it and he's the only one who can take me out. Now, I'm just in my introduction, but somebody ought to open up your mouth and tell them thank you that nothing or no one can take you out of the number. You may not be a shouter, but at least blink an eye with some affirmation by telling him thank you that I'm in the number. That's all the 144,000 is a symbolic number for the completion of God's people. And then as you follow this vision, the Bible says that when John hears, he hears about a number of 144,000. But when he looks, see, that's why you can't base it on just what you hear. You gotta look. Because what you see when you look is different than what you heard when you heard. Okay, when he heard, he only heard about 144,000. But the Bible says he looked. And when he looked, he saw a number that nobody could number. And everybody who was in that number was centered around the one who was on the throne. Watch it. The people who were in this number came from everywhere. From every nation, from every tribe, from every language. And it's the same number as the 144,000. I wish I had time to do this thing. It's the same number, but now the number is seen as being infinite, and it symbolizes not the completion of the 144,000, but it symbolizes the diversity of the number, that people come from everywhere in spite of your background, in spite of your race, in spite of your ethnicity. This is no Jim Crow crowd. Everybody who knows something about Jesus is in this crowd. And the thing that breaks down all the distinction is their connection with the one who's on the throne. Imagine if all of us came to church. Focus on the one who's on the throne. Not focus on what we have on or who's sitting with who and why she here and why he's here. But when everybody was centered on the one who's on the throne, who's Jesus Christ himself. John said, I saw a number that nobody can number. And all that was for free. Here it is. Once that number is seen, one of the strong angels raises a question. And says, because the number of those that nobody can number, they are adorned in white robes. And so the question is raised, who are these? Oh yeah. Who are dressed in white robes. Now John the Apostle, who hears the question, understands that the angel who's asking the question is not looking for information. The angel knows who they are, but he needs John to wrestle with it for a minute. Because I don't have time to talk about it, but every now and then God will put some questions in your lap. that he knows the answer to, but he just needs you to wrestle with it a little bit in order to mature your faith. I wish I had time here because you all remember when some food was needed to feed over 5,000 people, and Jesus looked at his disciples, and the Bible says he knew the answer, but he looked at his disciples and said, how are we going to feed over 5,000 people? Okay, you don't get it. You all remember in the book of Ezekiel, after Ezekiel is taken over that valley full of dry bones, the Lord looks at him and says, can these bones live? The Lord knows the answer to some questions, but he needs you to wrestle with it in order to mature your faith. He looks at John and says, who are these? And John answers like any wise child of God said. He says, sir, you know. You know who they are. And the angel looks back at him and said, yes, I know who they are. These are they who have come out of the great tribulation. Can I go at it now? These are they who are now on the other side of some stuff that they did not think they were going to make it out of. Okay, these are they who now can look back and wonder how they made it. These are they who are now on this side of sickness, who are on that side of having been unemployed, and now they can look back and wonder how it is that they made it to the point. And tonight, I believe I'm looking at somebody here who has the same testimony. There's some stuff you've come out of. Okay, some of you haven't said anything all day, but I need 5 honest people here. You may not want the person seated next to you to know, but somebody here has come out of some stuff that you did not think you were going to make it out of. A season when you thought you were finished. Is there anybody here who could affirm with me, Pastor, I didn't think I was going to make it out? I was in the hospital, didn't think I was going to make it out. Now I'm on the other side. And I just stopped by to inform you of how or why I believe you made it out. Had nothing to do with your strength, had nothing to do with how great you are, nothing to do with how slick or sly you are. But I just stopped by, come all the way down from New Jersey to just inform somebody as to how you made it out. Okay, I understand what the problem is. Some of you all are not really feeling this because you're saying, Pastor, I'm not on the other side. I'm still in my tribulation. I'm glad you're here because I already told you that this message was written for people who were presently in persecution. So watch it. When the Lord talks about them having come out of something, he pictures them coming out while they're still in. So this message is for anybody who's still in the middle of your tribulation, in the middle of your adversity, in the middle of your sickness, because what you got to begin to do is picture yourself as God pictures you. And how does God picture me? God pictures me already being out of what I'm in. So somebody ought to celebrate the fact that God can see you out of something while you're still in it. And so I got one crowd in here who I need to inform you as to how you came out. Then I got another crowd in here who I need to inform how you're going to come out. and it's the same message for both crowds. Can I tell you how they made it out and how you made it out? It's first of all because God did some blocking. I got 3 of y'all who got it. Look, the only reason they made it out is because according to the vision, when the vision opens up, there are 4 angels at the 4 corners of the earth, based on the ancient cosmology that the world was flat. 4 angels at the 4 corners of the earth, and they're holding back the 4 winds. The winds are the manifestation of God's wrath that was being sent to the earth to deal with the disobedience that was on the earth. Wind is connected with trouble in Scripture, based on the law first mentioned, because first time you hear about winds and trouble is when Jonah was running from the Lord. Okay, and the Lord sent some wind that troubled the water and rocked the boat from side to side. So wind is connected to trouble. Trouble is not always of the devil. Sometimes trouble is allowed by God as an agent of correction. Am I going to say it again? Because somebody here thought all of your trouble was of the devil. Some of your trouble is allowed or finds its source in God in order to get you where he wants you to be, because so far prayer hasn't worked. And so the Lord said, well, let me try something else. He will use correction. So the winds here are a part of or manifestation of God's trouble. But here it is. The four angels are positioned at the four corners to block the four winds, so that the earth and those on it won't experience the trouble they could have had. So as bad as things were for them, they're not as bad as they could have been if the Lord had not done some blocking. Oh, bless his name on the day. Because as much as I complain about as bad as things are, I don't know how bad they could have been if the Lord had not done some block. Do you know God specializes in blocking some stuff? See, some of y'all may not be able to connect with this because you don't even know what he blocked. The old folks used to say, Lord, we thank you for delivering us from danger seen and unseen. If you knew about some of the unseen stuff that God had blocked, you'd be running all around this church. You wouldn't even make it to church on the day if the Lord had not done some blocking. There were some things that were headed in your direction, but God literally got in the way. He got in the way of automobiles who could have destroyed you. He got in the way of some people who had bad intentions for you. God's intervention gets in the way of people's intention, and you end up surviving because of some blocking he did 20 years ago. You don't even know about it, but you may want to open up your mouth and tell him, thank you for being a blocker. I made it through because he done some block, gone through some of the same stuff that other people have gone through. But I made it through because God has done some blocking. Now here's what's interesting. Here's what's interesting. Is that the four winds were sent by God. Okay. But God commissions the angels to block the four winds that he sent. Okay, that doesn't do anything for you. Look, what you have here is God blocking God. That the wrath of God is aimed at you, but God gets in the way of his own judgment. It's not as though God is confused. It's not as though God is schizophrenic or multiple personalities. It's just that God has different parts to his nature. And one side of his nature has to deal with sin, so the winds have to be sent. But there's another side of his nature called his mercy that gets in the way of his judgment that blocks some stuff that you deserve. Okay, it looks like I got a real holy crowd here, but I got 5 people here who would affirm the fact that there's some stuff that you deserve based on your craziness, but somehow or another the mercy of God gets in the way of the judgment. My mother used to tell us that long before Tylenol and Advil and all that, every morning her mother would give her cod liver oil. Anybody know something about that? It helped her to ward off colds and all of that. And she said, but Mama never gave it to us straight because she knew we couldn't handle it by itself. So she would mix it with a little orange juice in order to make it more palatable. Can I tell you, you couldn't handle the judgment of God straight. So he takes the mercy and he mixes it together with his judgment and makes it more palatable, because if it didn't, your suit would be empty right now. How did you make it out? First of all, because God did some blocking. But keep on reading. Because not only did God do some blocking, but God also did some sealing. I told you there were 4 angels positioned at the 4 corners. But all of a sudden, when you keep reading the text, there's a 5th angel who emerges. And the 5th angel has a message for the 4 angels. The 5th angel said, we need you to do a favor. I need 4 of you all to do us a favor. I need you to hold back the winds long enough for me to take this sealing instrument in my hand and go to all the servants of God and put a mark on their forehead. Once I put a mark on their forehead, you can let the winds go. Because once you let the winds go, the judgment of God will recognize those who have the seal. And what could have been done to them won't be done to them, all because they're identified as the children of God. I'm sorry, y'all, that's not the best I can do. And I'm doing something for you. He said, look, sometimes God blocks you from the wind. Other times he blocks you while you're in the wind. He just protects you, and that's why you survived some stuff that some of your friends did not survive. That's why you're still alive, even though you were involved in some of the same mess. But somehow or another, look at you now. It has nothing to do with your own morality. It has everything to do with somehow or another, the mark of the Lord is on you. What are you talking about, preacher? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Look, this whole sealing thing has a couple of references in Scripture. And I don't have time to talk about it, but you can look it up when you have a chance. In Ephesians, look, the whole sealing thing does at least 2 things. It enables preservation and it establishes identification. That's what sealing does. According to Ephesians chapter 1, and grieve not the Spirit whereby you are sealed unto the day of redemption. See, being sealed by the Spirit on one hand enables preservation. Because you end up being preserved from some stuff. Go home and look at that loaf of bread that you have. And in addition to some ingredients you know about, flour and water, there'll be some stuff listed you can't even pronounce. Those are called preservatives. Preservatives fight off bacteria to extend the shelf life of the bread. Because there's bacteria that's trying to destroy the integrity of the bread, but there's something in it. Whoever made the bread, I wish I had help, put something in it in order to fight off bacteria to extend its shelf life. The reason your shelf life has been extended is because you have the power of the Spirit in you who seals you unto the day of redemption. And as a matter of fact, that's why he only seals you to the day of redemption, because of the day of redemption, the bacteria of sin will no longer be around, so you'll have no need to be preserved. I'm sorry, that's the best I can do. Look, he says, you are sealed. Anybody know you are sealed? Yeah. You don't even know that when the Spirit of God lives in you, he seals you with preservation. Yeah. But then sealing not only enables preservation, but it also establishes identification. Because the seal says who you belong to. Yeah. You can read that in the book of Ezekiel. Seals are put on the people of God in order to show who they belong to. Fraternities have seals. Omega Psi Phi has a seal. Alpha Phi Alpha has a seal. Even gangs have colors that identify gang members so that when people see them, they understand that you can't mess with them because they belong to something bigger than what they are. When you are sealed, help me preach, by the Holy Ghost, and his mark is on you, the enemy has to be careful because the seal says you are part of something bigger than just you. I'm almost done with it, but I'm trying to let you know how it is Zion Hill has made it for 120 years. It hasn't been on a fundamental level. It hasn't been just because of the preachers. It hasn't been because who the deacons and trustees are. It hasn't been because of who the choir is and who the ushers are. But this church has made it 120 years because all of them people will come and go. But you have made it because you've been sealed. First of all, God did some blocking, and second of all, God did some sealing. Now what I want you to notice, I almost forgot about this, as to where the angel puts the seal. Everybody touch your forehead. He puts it on your forehead. Doesn't put the seal on your knee. Doesn't put it on your back. I'm about to come get you. Doesn't put it on your shoulder, but on your forehead. Because those parts of your body are sometimes covered. Rarely is your forehead covered. Okay, and the Spirit wants to put the seal where it's most conspicuous so that everybody knows you belong to Him. And that blesses me on the day. It blesses me on the day because the Lord owns me when really He shouldn't own me. You know how certain relatives that you have and you only want to own up to them when they're acting right, but when they're acting crazy, you don't want everybody to know that's your cousin and that's your uncle and all that. But when they graduate from school, you be like, oh, that's my cousin, that's my son, that's my grandson. But when they're acting crazy, you don't want everybody to know that you are related to them. But I'm glad on today that no matter how crazy I act, the Lord owns up to me and says, you are my child. Somebody will open up your mouth and tell Him thank you for the fact that He owns you when He could have disowned you a long time ago. He puts the seal on your forehead. I'm just trying to tell you how you made it out. You made it out, number one, because God did something. And then God did something. But finally, you have come out of what you come out of because God did some washing. Preachers is all right there. God did some washing. When those that number that nobody can number, once they're seen by John, he says that they are adorned in white robes. White robes are symbolic of their purity. You got it. But those who are dressed in white robes can't walk around heaven bragging, arrogant or conceited, with their noses up in the air, because their purity is not as a result of their behavior. Purity is as a result of grace. And nobody in Zion here can walk around with their noses up in the air, those are better than any of some spiritual elitism. I don't even know where you live, because the truth of the matter is, if you are pure today, you know it has nothing to do with who you are, but it has everything to do with the grace of God. Because even before you started behaving the right way, you were declared pure. You were declared a saint of God. Only the grace of God can get you to the point where you are considered pure. Okay, maybe that don't do anything for you. Here it is. Look at them. They are dressed in white robes. White robes because they have washed their robes in the blood of the Lamb. The blood of the Lamb is so efficacious. The blood of the Lamb is so powerful that it washes you from whatever you've been through. Anybody know there's power? I'm sorry, I still believe in preaching Jesus and the blood. Anybody know there's power in the blood? Hold on, wait a minute. The blood is so powerful that it washes you to the point where when you come out, there's no evidence that you've been where you've been. And the reason I know that is because the question is raised, who are these? The reason the question is raised, who are these, is because their appearance does not match their experience. Because based on their experience, there's no way they should be looking as good as they look. And so when the angel sees them, the question is raised, who are these? Because they don't look like their experience. Oh, based on where they've been, based on the craziness that they've been through, there's no way they should look as good as they look. The matter is, if the person seated next to you knew about what you've been through, internally and externally, and yet you look as good as you do, They wouldn't wait for you to shout. They would shout for you. Because somebody looking at you says, who is this? Who's been through cancer? Who is this? Come on, who's been through divorce? Who is this? Who has been through unemployment? Because most of you, your appearance does not match your experience. But the blood, I said the blood will wash you until when you come out on the other side, there's no way you look like what you have been through. And I know that sounds like a cliche, but it's just true. That there's power in the blood. Power to make you new. Power to give you a new start. Power to give you a new name. No wonder Paul said, if anyone be in Christ, they are new creations. The old is passed away. Behold, all things are become new. When I tell you that's why the Lord has to take care of you, it's because it cost him too much for him to clean you up. It cost the Father his Son. And it cost the Son his life. And you know that if the Lord spent all of that on you, surely he's going to take care of you. Okay, you don't get the connection. If it cost him that much to save you, surely he can heal your body. If it cost him that much to save you, surely he'll see you being jobless. He'll see you through you being jobless. He'll see you through you being depressed because it cost him too much for him to give up on you. Is there anybody in the room who knows what it cost the Lord to save you? It cost the Father his Son, and it cost the Son his life. Do I have a witness here? Some of you all don't know the name Heather Melton. Heather Melton is alive today, but she should not be alive today. Heather Melton was in that crowd at that country music concert in Las Vegas when that shooter raised up the window in the Mandalay Bay Hotel and started spraying that crowd with all kind of gunfire. But the only reason Heather Melton is alive today is because her husband was with her. And when her husband heard the gunfire, her husband literally got on top of her and he covered her up, and the bullets that were meant for Heather went into her husband, and the blood from her husband ended up covering up her. Good day, church. And may the Lord bless you real good. But the only reason you're still alive is because the nails that should have been in your hands went in his hand. The thorn that should have been in his head went in your head, went in his head. The lashes that went on his back, come on, that should have gone on your back. But is there anybody here who's glad that he took your place? I gotta leave you now, but take your neighbor by the hand and tell him he took my place. He took my place. He shed his blood. Do I have a witness here? And because he shed his blood, I'm able to come out of some stuff. Somebody looking at me knows that you shouldn't have come out of what you came out of. But the only reason you made it out is number one, God did some blocking. And then God did some. Take the neighbor by the hand and tell him you really don't know what he's brought me out of. But I've come out of hard times. I've come out of tribulation. I've come out of depression. I've come out of despair. I've come out of adversity. I've come out of trouble. And the reason I came out is because he washed me. He washed me. He sealed me. He blocked some stuff. Yeah! I gotta leave you now. But when you read the passage, the last thing the people are doing is they're standing, they're kneeling at the throne, and they're crying hallelujah. They're crying power. They're crying glory. They're crying thank you, Lord. Because for anybody that God has done some blocking, for anybody that God has done some sealing, for anybody that God has done some washing, your best response is to do some praising. I understand if he hadn't brought you out of anything, then you ought to remain quiet. But is there anybody here who knows if it had not been for the Lord who was on your side? Well, if you know that, you ought to open up your mouth and cry glory and power and honor. Yeah, yeah. If he brought you out, you ought to give him praise. If he brought you out, you ought to raise your hand and open up your mouth. I don't mean to bother you, but touch somebody and tell them he's worthy, because